みをこぼれた時、恋の喜びは愛の厳しさへの架け橋に過ぎないと、ただ風の中に佇んで君はやがて見つけていった。ただ風に涙を預けて君は女になっていった。
Check, check. 1, 2. Hey, hey.
君の家へ続くあの道を今足元に確かめて、今日から君はただの
Check, check. 1, 2. Hey, hey.
今日から僕はただの男。君の心へ続く
Can we do it? I'd actually rather do it up front there.
Oh, okay.
Is that live?
Should be.
Good morning, everybody. It's 11 o'clock right now. We're going to be starting in about 5 minutes. We're still waiting for some people who are parking in the far parking lot to come on over. So if everybody could start finding some seats, and please have a seat. Again, we'll be starting in just a few minutes. Thank you.
から10年も忘れられたビッグウェイ遠くに揺れてるあの日の夢 人だけのビッグウェイ心に浮かんだ大切な Love Affair
心が叫んでる一人では生きてゆけなくてまた誰かを愛している心悲しくて言葉にできない酒を飲み込んで果たせぬあの頃の夢はもう消えた誰のせいでもない 葉にできない
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. On behalf of SK's family, I would like to welcome all of you to Hillsboro Aero Academy as we celebrate the life of Satoru Kamoshita, or as we all know him, SK. I would also like to welcome those of you that are watching online, as this event is being streamed around the globe on the internet. My name is Houston Hickenbottom, and I first met SK in 1997, almost 24 years ago to the day. What I didn't know when I first met SK, that he would become not only the greatest flight instructor that I've ever known, but he'd also become my closest friend. Today is a day for all of us to reflect on the life of SK, a man who committed himself in his professional life to helping others. You know, back in 1997, when SK came to work for our company, we didn't even have any openings for a flight instructor. He applied for a job, but we didn't have any openings. Max Lyons, who was the general manager of Hillsboro Aviation at the time, met with SK and saw something extremely special in him. So while we didn't even have an opening for a flight instructor, SK impressed Max to the point where SK offered him a job. And as the saying goes, the rest is history. Max is here today, and I'd like to invite him up to say a few words on SK.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really honored to stand up here this morning to speak to you about our dear friends, Satoru Kamoshita, known to all of us by SK, or as SK. It makes me happy to see so many people here today to honor and celebrate SK's life. I know that he would be completely embarrassed and humbled by this demonstration of love. He was one of the most humble people I've ever met. I can sincerely say that there's no one in my life that was more loyal as a friend than SK. As most of you felt when you heard the sad news about SK's passing, I walked around in an emotional haze for a couple of days. I couldn't believe it, and I still don't. One thing that we know about SK is how much he loved his family and being a flight instructor. SK and I were friends and worked together for over 24 years, or over a 24-year period. There's been a break in the last 6 years, but we continue to stay friends and meet up from time to time. Before meeting SK in the 1990s, 1997, I'd heard about him from a number of friends in the industry, but we had never met. When we finally met in 1997, I asked SK to join Hillsboro Aviation as a CFI in our Japanese flight training program. Over the next few years, it became clear how much he cared for and was committed to all of our Asian students, not just the Japanese students. A number of years ago, he left the school with the goal of going on to the airlines. During that time, he came back to visit me, and he shared with me that he realized that the airlines were not a good fit for him. He told me that he missed instructing and being at Hillsboro Aviation. I asked him to come back with a goal of making the Japanese program the best Asian flight training program in the United States. Lucky for myself and the school, he accepted that offer. For me, SK was not just an employee and pilot who worked for myself in the school. He was much more than that. He was one of my instructors who helped me through my airplane instrument rating, multi-engine rating, and my transition into King Airs. He was also one of the pilots that I entrusted to fly my family on charter flights. Most importantly, though, he became a very loyal and trusted friend. SK was born to be a flight instructor, helping hundreds of pilots get through their different levels of pilot training. He was a mentor who loved his industry and cared about all of the students, thousands of them, literally thousands of them, and not just his own students. He was the reason why the school's Japanese, Taiwanese, Korean, and in many ways the China program became so successful. SK simply was the foundation that made Hillsboro Aviation's Asian program one of the most successful in the world. There are hundreds of pilots who have gone on to prestigious careers in the airline industry who were lucky enough to have SK as their advocate and involved in their training. He brought to the flight school and our staff the cultural sensitivity that is critical to teaching a complex and challenging lesson plan to students from other countries where English is not their first language. Regarding his passing, there is no good answer to the question of why someone as kind and loving as SK was taken so early. There are those that believe that good people like SK, who are so kind and generous and are committed to serving others, are taken early because they are more spiritually developed and have nothing more to learn or gain from this particular life or the world in general. I tend to think he had completed his mission in this life and is also on his next adventure. Maybe flying in an open cockpit airplane with a big, loving smile on his face. Regardless, for those of us that are left behind, SK is my friend. You and your kind heart will be forever missed. Thank you.
When SK started flying at the Hillsboro Airport, one of the things he did was reach out to introduce himself to the air traffic controllers in our Hillsboro tower. Something that's not common among new flight instructors. That's what made SK so special. This is where he met Lyle Johnson, who was one of the senior air traffic controllers at the time. Lyle and SK developed a close friendship that lasted ever since. Lyle is here today, and I'd like to invite him up to say a few words about SK. Lyle?
Good morning. This is amazing seeing this many people. What a tribute. My name is Lyle Johnson, and for those of you who don't know, I retired from Hillsboro Tower in 2013. But apparently it is a failed retirement because I'm now manager of Troutdale Tower and Aurora Tower. However, in 33 days, I'm going to attempt it again, and hopefully I will be more successful this time. I also started at Hillsboro Tower in 1997. It was a good year. There were 8 controllers, the manager, and me. Those were great times at Hillsboro. Lots of air traffic. Take all of these fixed wing and add in about 30 helicopters, and that's what Hillsboro was. We had a blast, and we were more of a family than coworkers. Back in those days and up until COVID, we could do tower tours. It was always fun having groups come up, and they were always welcome. I always thought it was funny how a pilot would come up to the tower, which was about 60 feet off the ground, and marvel at our view. Believe me, as good as our view was, your view as a pilot is much better. Soon after I arrived at Hillsboro, I met SK. He brought a class of pilots in training over for a tour, and he was amazed at our operation. He and I became instant friends. I still remember the first time I saw him in the tower cab. He had this big smile on his face, and yet he was a little nervous. He was hiding something behind his back. It turned out he had brought gifts for each of the controllers in the tower. What a class act he was. I don't ever remember him coming by to visit without bringing something for the controllers. SK would call me often about something that one of his students had done. And if I had an issue with a student, I would call SK. We would talk about it until there was a... Everybody wave. We would talk about the issue or the problem or whatever it was, and then we'd come to an understanding about it and how best to address it. And then he would take it to the student, and it would be treated as a coaching session. I miss those days where you could just, somebody would do something and you could just talk to the instructor and just take care of it that way. One of my favorite memories of SK had nothing to do with air traffic control. Some of you may know that since 1990, I have sung with and directed a local group called the Dickens Carolers. It's a quartet consisting of 2 men and 2 women dressed in Victorian-era garb, singing a cappella Christmas carols. Back in the late 90s, Hillsboro Aviation had hired the Dickens Carolers to sing for their Christmas party. I don't think they knew that I was in the group, and they were surprised when I came strolling in wearing a tuxedo with tails and a top hat. Anyway, we started our performance, and everyone was having a great time. Later in the program, I decided we would sing the 12 Days of Christmas. I loved doing that song because I, as the group leader, I assigned the parts to the audience and get everyone involved. On that topic, do any of you know what the true love gave on the 10th day of Christmas? Anybody? 10 Lords a-leaping. 10 Lords a-leaping. And I always choose 2 people to play the part of the 10 Lords a-leaping. And that day I chose Max Lyons and SK. They were both good sports. They came on up. And I think Max had fun, but in all actuality, I think he really wanted to climb down a hole. But SK was the biggest ham. He totally got into the part, leaping from one side of the room to the other, wearing his tall top hat, and he had a smile on his face that I've never forgotten. I'd like to think that this was one of his happiest moments. It certainly made a mark on my life, as I have never forgotten it. So for the past 2.5 years, I've worked at Troutdale, and whenever SK flew into Troutdale, he would always come up on the frequency to say hello, and if he had time, he would always drop over to the tower for a visit. Always made my day. About 6 months ago, SK drove to Troutdale to give someone a check ride. He had called a few days earlier and told me that he was coming over and would like to visit the tower. I told him that because of COVID, he couldn't come up, but that I would meet him downstairs. When he showed up, it was as if I had never left Hillsboro. We told stories and we laughed. He had that huge smile. He brought a gift, of course. And we just sat and reminisced. After a while, when he had to leave, I told him that I had something for him in my car. I had gift-wrapped a Dickens Carolers CD that my quartet had recorded, and I gave it to him. He was speechless. The expression on his face was if I had just given him $1 million. He was so happy, and he gave me a hug that will last me the rest of my life. And that was the last time I saw SK. There's a saying, actually a compliment. When God made SK, he broke the mold. This is so true. He was one of a kind. He was polite, passionate, funny, and an amazing listener. He would hang on your every word, and you would walk away from him feeling better about yourself. He had an amazing, genuine laugh that would make you laugh back. He had integrity. If he said he would do something, he did it. I also know that if he were here, listening to us talking about him, he would insist that we change the subject. I'm so sorry that he is gone. And I know I am only one of the thousands of people that he has touched that will miss him desperately. But today we celebrate his life, his love for his family, his friends, his accomplishments, both in and out of the cockpit. And we celebrate his instruction of those fortunate students who learned from a true professional, who, in turn, will go on instructing others, passing his legacy on and on. Goodbye, SK, until we meet again.
I'm very honored today to have the time to talk about my friend, SK. Like Max, I had the opportunity to work with SK from the beginning of his career here in Hillsboro. I worked with him when he was a Lyons CFI, to the point where he became a director of our Asia program, and through the point where he became an FAA designated pilot examiner. Yes, we worked together, but more importantly, we were also very close friends. We trusted each other, we believed in each other, we helped each other, and we shared many, many laughs together. I remember very clearly the first time I met SK. It was in our conference room, which is now an office, and he came up to me and he goes, "My name is Satoru Kamoshita, but please call me SK." And for the next 24 years, I never called him Satoru. I always called him SK. You know what? He told me the reason why he wanted to be called SK was because he thought the name Satoru was difficult to pronounce. I never believed him. I think he picked the name SK because it's a cool pilot name. You know, SK is a legend both here in Oregon and around the globe. Even if he had the name Satoru and went by that, he would still be a legend. But you know what? The name SK makes him sound like a rock star. It was actually quite funny those first couple of years that SK worked here at Hillsboro. It was not uncommon for somebody to come by my office and say, "Hey, I got a call for Satoru Kamoshita. Does that name ring a bell?" And I go, "That's SK." And they go, "That's SK?" And I go, "Yeah." It's amazing how many people didn't know SK's name is Satoru Kamoshita. His name, SK, and initials were so reflective of what he was. I even remember people going through mail, and they'd say, "Hey, here's a letter for a Satoru Kamoshita. Is that somebody that used to work here?" I said, no, that's SK. That is our friend SK. So when we printed up the programs today, we put his name Satoru Kamoshita. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few of you out there that were looking at that and say, "Wow, that's SK's name?" One of the many reasons SK and I got along so well is that we shared the same values and interest. We both cared greatly about this business and about the students that came to learn to fly at Hillsboro. We both loved aviation, and on a personal side, we both loved baseball and dogs. SK loved the Seattle Mariners. He especially was fond of them when Ichiro was playing for the Mariners. And I loved my San Francisco Giants. Thankfully for our friendships, the Seattle Mariners very rarely played the San Francisco Giants. But what made SK so passionate was about his love of his dogs. It's quite obvious as I grab the program here. This is my favorite photo of SK. I'm so glad that the family chose this picture to be on the front of this program of SK standing there with his dog, Koro. This is the second Jack Russell Terrier that SK has had. If we go back in time, I'm going to put this under here so it doesn't blow away. If we go back in time, SK's first dog, his first Jack Russell Terrier was a dog named Hana. SK loved that dog, and that dog loved him. Hana loved SK so much that whenever he'd leave for work for one of his long days, she got so upset she would try to escape his yard. He used to tell me stories about Hana trying to dig holes under his fence or tear a brick apart so he can get through his yard. He shared me stories about how he had to try to fix his yards to keep Hana from escaping. One day, SK came to me and told me that Hana had escaped, but he couldn't find her. He was very distraught. His beloved dog was missing. So I helped him. We called animal shelters. I know SK put up flyers around his neighborhood looking for his dog Hana, but there was no luck. 4 or 5 days went by and still no word from his dog Hana. Then SK comes to see me the next day, and he tells me that he finally got a call from somebody who saw his flyer. And it was a family in his neighborhood who had actually found Hana on the day she was lost. And they didn't know what to do with her when they found her. And they were heading out on vacation. So naturally, they made the decision as, let's take this dog on vacation with us. So while SK is at home, spending night and day looking for his beloved Hana, she's out on the Oregon coast running on the beach with her foster family. Only SK would this happen to. But the story doesn't end there. SK told me that when he finally met up with the family to go reclaim Hana, he showed up at their house. And I believe, Ty, you were there at that time. And he showed up at the house. And Hana had such a good time with his family that when he called Hana to come out to see him, she didn't move. This family had fallen in love with the dog. So he had had a chance to call her, and she wasn't coming his way. So finally, SK gave Hana the stern look that I think a few of us have known SK for long knows the look he can give, and told Hana, vacation is over. You are coming home. And then Hana came to Ty and SK, and time to go home. SK loved his dogs, and we laughed at this story for many years to come. Privately, SK had shared with me that he was very self-conscious about how he spoke his English. I told him on multiple occasions that his English is good, and it's a million times better than my Japanese. SK never accepted that his English is good enough. And for the entire time I knew him, for the entire 24 years I knew him, he worked hard at improving his English. As recently as even this year, SK was taking a course that was helping him improve his writing skills in English. In 2011, SK achieved his greatest professional accomplishment ever when he was selected by the FAA to become a designated pilot examiner. For those of you that don't know, a designated pilot examiner is someone who can perform pilot check rides on behalf of the FAA. It is an incredible honor, but it also comes with tremendous responsibility. SK shared with me that he has a great confidence in his skills as a pilot examiner, but deep down, he was still concerned about his English skills. A few months after he became a designated pilot examiner and he was already performing check rides, SK came to me to share a story about a check ride that put his English skills to the test. It had to do with a maneuver called turns around a point. So I know the pilots of the audience will know what I'm talking about, but for everybody else, when you're doing a private pilot check ride, the examiner will tell the applicant to do turns around a point. At that point, the applicant is to find a reference point on the ground, usually an intersection of a road, or maybe a tree, or a cell phone tower, and then they're to fly a perfect circle around that reference point, and it's called turns around a point. So as SK shares the story with me, he's out with this applicant for a pilot's license. It's great we're here at the airport. So SK is out with this applicant, and at the part of the test where he decides to tell the student, do turns around a point, the student just continues to fly the airplane straight and level. So SK figures, well, maybe he just didn't hear me. So SK keyed the intercom again, and he said, do turns around a point. And again, this guy just keeps flying the airplane straight and level. And for SK, he said this is a feeling of his greatest fear to come true. This applicant is not understanding what SK is saying. So the demons that he feared about his English skills he felt were coming true. So again, he mustered all of his strength and his best enunciation, and he said again, do turns around a point. And again, the student just kept flying straight and level. SK decided at that point the best thing to do was just to sit back and see what happens. Well, it ends up the student had understood SK the entire time and had decided to fly 15 miles to the turning tree out in the West practice area. Now, for those of you that aren't pilots out here, know that there's a tree that sits out by itself out in the west side of the airport here that all the pilots use for training to do turns around a point. And SK with this applicant the applicant had chosen to fly 15 miles out of the way to go find this tree. So, SK, your English was great. It had nothing to do with your English. Now I want to talk a little bit about how SK works so hard. He was dedicated to his job. Everybody here knows that. Even when he was a line CFI, when he first started 24 years ago, he put in just the long hours that he did today. He worked late assisting his students, whether it be teaching ground school classes, doing paperwork, or doing a night flight. Which leads me to my next SK story. So this is back in the late 90s. One evening, after another long day, SK went out to the parking lot, got in a car, and left, and started heading home to Portland. As SK relays the story to me, he's driving down Highway 26, he's 4 or 5 miles away from here, and he starts looking around his car. And he starts going, something's different here. And he looks in the back seat, he looks in the front seat, and he realizes it's not his car. Only SK would happen to find a car that used the exact same key that SK's car has, and SK drove somebody else's car home from the airport. It's one of the funniest stories that we ever told about SK, and we always said, only SK. I also wanted to share with everybody a somewhat recent dinner I had with SK. Before COVID began, SK and I went out to dinner. I wanted to talk to him about his workload and if he had any plans to slow down. He was working 7 days a week, which he's been doing for many, many years. It was funny, when I asked him about that, he laughed. He said it would be great to slow down. But then he turned very serious. And he told me that he loves his job. And helping people achieve their goals is his purpose in life. He said he would not want it any other way. That's SK. Thank you. Now, we would like to show, we were planning to show a slideshow, a great slideshow that was created in honor of SK. Unfortunately, as we are testing it out here, we have a monitor over there, we have these monitors up front. We're afraid that most of you won't be able to see this. So what we would like to do is, we're going to play the slideshow at the end, the conclusion of this program today. And we would really welcome people to, while maintaining social distancing, to gather around. It's going to be on a loop, and we're going to run the slideshow at the end of this formal program today. It'll be running on the monitor over there and the monitors here. And while the slideshow's playing some of SK's family's favorite pictures of him, it'll also be playing some great music, music that SK loved. So now I would like to talk to everybody about get an opportunity for people to come up and talk about SK. But before I do, we have a short video that we would like to play, and I'll wait for the signal when we're ready, but it's a video recorded by SK's sister in Japan. I know a lot of you might not be able to see it on the monitors, but I'm sure you'll be able to hear the audio. She would like to say some words today. She was unable to come. And we'll start with that, and I'll just look for the signal. We're ready. Okay, please, you guys could start anytime.
Daughter and son. I'm SK's sister, father, my husband, daughter and son. Today, thank you for coming for SK. This is Japanese house where SK grew up. Sorry, we can't go to America because of COVID-19. Still, we can't believe it. But I can see SK's smile face. And I can hear the voice forever. Many thanks to everyone, including SK. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I invite anybody to come on up and say some words, if you'd like to say some words about SK, I would first like to have some time for SK's family to come up and say some words if they would like. So, Ty, May.
All right, well, thank you all for coming today. It's amazing to see you all here. It's really good. Well, this past few years has been full of surprises, and never in a million guesses would I have foresaw the emptiness I share with you all today. The sadness of the loss of my father can feel overwhelming, but what I keep coming back to is life is just too good to stop living. So, in my effort to celebrate my father's life, I'd like to focus on some of the good qualities of SK and hope we can embrace these and carry on the spirit through our own lives in our heart. One of the qualities I admire the most has been his persistence towards his dream of flying. As you all know, my father came to the United States with the dream of becoming a pilot. His greatest challenge in the States has consistently been language. This challenge provided many obstacles through his career and path, but he never let this stop him from moving forward. Through his dedication and effort, he got his commercial pilot license and became the first Japanese pilot to graduate Embry-Riddle. And he did so with a double major and a master's degree. Despite this accomplishment, he continued to struggle to find a way to make income as a pilot. He soon started our family, and he supported us by working odd jobs such as warehouse work with FedEx. But he never settled for a future without flying. In the States, he continued to better himself as a pilot, and through persistence, he eventually began to find opportunities to fly. The next quality I want to talk about is community building. SK came to America with the goal of becoming an airline pilot, but instead of pursuing this to the end, he found a new passion. He dedicated his life to help other international students like himself get their pilot certifications and follow the dreams that he had. Not only did he train them and test them, but he built a whole community for students from all over Asia to come to the United States and cater to them, so their path would have less of the hardships that he endured during his training. I take great pride knowing that my dad's choices in life helped provide a future for tens of thousands of students like himself and accomplish the dream he initially sought in the United States. And though this is not the end of my speech, I'd like to thank you all for giving my dad purpose, as he's mentioned countless times, how meaningful his place in this community has been for him. SK enjoyed beauty in this world. I remember my first flight with my dad 8 years ago on my 24th birthday, and after this rush of lifting off the ground for the first time, we were greeted by these beautiful cirrus clouds framing this wonderful sunset. And I'm sure he planned it. Our flight wasn't long, but I think he wanted to provide the most meaningful, beautiful experience for me for my first flight. And though he never directly acknowledged it, I knew he loved to take and share photos of beautiful scenery he enjoyed while he flew. I had this emotional moment a few weeks ago when I accidentally borrowed one of his flight regulation books while I was doing some ground with one of my students. And in this book, there was a dozen or two pressed maple leaves scattered throughout the pages. And as I was flipping through the book, I kept coming across these maple leaves. And thinking of this and what he must have been thinking as he put those maple leaves in this book just makes me feel warm and happy to think about. And so I hope we can celebrate this quality in him and still appreciate all this beauty in this world. One of my most vivid memories with my father was during Father's Day about 4 years ago. We all went out to dinner, and on the way back home, we rode in the car together, and we had this 2-hour drive together, taking lots of detours. And at the time, I was what I thought was a fairly successful restaurant manager, and he insisted I find a career in life that I felt comfortable doing every day. And he told me that if I wanted to open up a restaurant, he would provide whatever support that I would need. But alternatively, he provided the idea of becoming a pilot to me, and he told me that I could take my time, enjoy another few years, enjoy whatever sort of fun and youthful dreams I had before trying to settle myself down. And for the rest of my 20s, I pondered this dilemma, and I finally settled on the idea of becoming a pilot. That was potentially the best decision I've made to date. But I will pause here for a moment, as I believe Houston has a presentation for us.
I would ask everyone to please stand and look to the north here. Sorry to interrupt you, Ty. In tribute to SK, the pilot community of Oregon would like to honor him by flying a missing man formation in his honor. After the aircraft have passed, I would ask for everyone to remain standing while we reserve a 1 minute moment of silence in memory of SK. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. Sorry, sorry, Ty.
Good.
It was really good.
It took a moment to catch on.
Thanks, that's okay. You're doing well.
Thank you. And so my dad gave me this dilemma of finding a way, a future for myself in a sustainable way where I could start building a family happily with my lovely wife. And it's been 4 years now, and here we are flying at HAA. Unlike many of you here, I did not grow up with the dream of flying airplanes. I certainly enjoy it, but my draw to flying has been with the hopes of becoming closer to my father. And through my training, I've made so many good memories with my dad. And I've learned some of his philosophy of flying and teaching. I often felt during my employment at Hillsboro that I would never enjoy another job as much as I enjoy working here. Sharing the experience of flight with my students for the first time, and training with them, learning from them, and watching them gain confidence in their flying is so meaningful. But the part I enjoy the most about working here has been looking forward to my father testing my students and seeing some of the philosophies he's taught me and the teachings he's taught me, and seeing my adaptation in the students that he tests. I've shared so many fond laughs and stories with my father during my time here with my students, and I'm so thankful I've gotten the opportunity to have these memories with my dad. There are times in my life when I depended on my father, and he did his best to give me the independence and confidence I strive towards every day. Thanks to my father, I know my path in life, and I know what I need to do to get there. And I'm so thankful I've had him up to now to find this path. So for my father, I will embrace his spirit, and I will honor the Kamoshita name by being the best pilot, husband, soon father, role model, and human being I can. I'm sure that's hard for us all without him. But we are all his successors, and we must honor him by embracing the spirit and becoming the best that we can be. So to everyone here, I want to take this moment for you to remember what is important for you. My father faced countless challenges getting to where he is today. and I hope he can enjoy watching you overcome the challenges of your future with the spirit of SK in your heart. And I suppose a few words in Japanese for our Japanese students here. もうみんな大体英語わかると思うので、内容わかると思いますけど、お父さんはアメリカに来た時、本当に英語の話すチャレンジいろいろあって、もう10年以上、10年ぐらいかな、何年か飛行機飛ぶ仕事を見つける努力して何年かかかったけど、彼は諦めないで続いて、パイロットになるまでに諦めないで続いて、でこれでこの夢を目指してここまで来たので、みんなもこれからいろんなチャレンジと問題はあると思いますけど、本当に飛行機飛ぶのは好きだったら諦めないで夢を目指していつも前に続いてください。ありがとう。Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm short. Oh. First of all, thank you very much for all coming today. I want to begin my tribute to him as gratefulness. I want to thank him to get me into his car when we first met. And that's when I had the opportunity to talk to him and get to know him. Also, I want to thank him for loving who I am and what I am. And also, I want to thank him for giving me the confidence and tell me that I'm capable of doing everything. Because I was born with spinal bifida with some health condition. So he knows that I was very self-conscious about that. And I also want to thank him for being a great husband and also a great father to his children. I am lucky that he gave me a beautiful family. T, Maya, Tai, Nana, and all the dogs. I want to thank him for sharing all his beautiful memories and places with me. Now, it gave me a lot of memory for years to come, that to live. I also want to thank him for teaching me the proper business etiquette. SK is not only just a pilot, but he is also a very graceful businessman. Throughout the years, I learned so much from him, especially when you are doing business with Japanese people. There's a lot of things to learn, and I'm grateful he had taught me so much. I also want to thank him for trusting me on supporting him in the past 14 years in the career, in the aviation. And thank him for allowing me to work with him and to be here with him. Also, I want to thank him for teaching me to know how the rules, all the rules for the sports. Because seriously, before I met him, I don't watch any sports at all. But because he really want to watch football game, baseball game, all the games that you can name it on TV. So he will turn on the TV and he will start asking me questions, and he knows how much I want to win with his quiz. So I will learn as fast as I can from all the rules. And then I learned that, so I fell into his trap, so I start watching the games. That's how smart he is. Also, I want to thank him for showing me what does it look like to do things that you love every day and to live your life to the fullest. All the years that I've worked with him in the school, I watch him. I watch how he teach, how he take care of problem students. And actually, the student that he loved to teach the most are the problem students. Because he feels like when he sees them, he feels like he was one of them. And he remembers how hard it was for him to go through all the challenges. And for that, he wants to help them to make the dream come true. So I want to continue his legacy, to continue to help more people to be pilots, good pilots, aviators. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I'm going to raise the microphone, May, if you're okay with that. Jake-san, come, please come on. One of SK's longtime friends. Jake-san.
Konnichiwa. SK, I cannot believe you still flying over TV highway. Where are you? The tower is already clear for landing. Coming back. Sorry in Japanese. Today, so many Japanese person is coming here. And私は2003年からSK さんと巡り合って今日までずっと共にしてきました。2003年12月に初めて SK さんに会って2004年にスチューデントになりました。でプライベートパイロットのライセンスが安く取れるよと、とても取りやすいよ、安いよ安いよと SK さんに言われてそそのかされて、このヒルスボロアビエーションに入学しました。で夢だったプライベートパイロットライセンスを2004年から取り始めて CFI は SK さんでした。いつも SK マジックが起きます。He has a special magic. 私がプライベートパイロットのライセンスのチェックライドの時は悪天候でにもかかわらずチェックライドが始まりました。でどんどん天気が悪くなって視界ももう悪くなって、その時はテリーさんがエグザミナーでしたけども、 チェックライドが途中で終わりました。すべてのメニューをこなさなかったんですけど、なぜか合格しました。また IFR の時には一番苦手だったケーキを目隠しをしてフライトするんですけれども、その時にエグザミナーの人がテープでケーキにラバーの蓋をするんですけど、テープの粘着力が弱くなっててすぐ落ちちゃって、いつもケーキを見ながらエグザミナーのチェックライドを受けて、これも SK マジックで何もせずに IFR が合格しました。で最後にコマーシャルパイロットのライセンスを、これもチェックライドを受けたんですけども、チェックライド中にエグザミナーの人がお腹が痛くなって突然トイレに行きたいということで、とある飛行場にチェックライド中に着陸しました。そこでかなりの時間ずっと待たされて、でもう時間がなくなったから帰ろうっていうことで、これもコマーシャルパイロットのメニューを半分ぐらいやって合格しました。いつもSK マジックでなぜか合格してしまいました。そんな思い出がたくさんあります。で、私がプライベートパイロットのライセンスを取って2007年に飛行機を買いたいということで、ノースカロライナまで飛行機を見つけて取りに行きました。その時も SK さんがたった70時間しか飛んでない私がノースカロライナまで飛行機を取りに行って、テネシー、ジョージア、テキサス、カリフォルニア、ずっと5日間かけて自分でフェリーするのにいろんなアドバイスをいただきました。もう不安でしょうがないんですけれども、常に的確なアドバイスをいつも四六時中電話でいただいて、なんとか、たった数十時間の、ビギナーパイロットだったんですけども、ノースカロライナからヒルスブローまで購入した飛行機を持って帰ったと、そういう思い出もあります。で SK さんはいつも皆さんがおっしゃるように犬が大好きで、私たち家族にもどこ行っちゃったかわいいゴールデンレトリバーの犬がいました。一昨年亡くなったんですけど、常に犬の話を SK さんが好きで、いつもうちに来るとまずうちのナナに、お声がけして触ってずっと会話してました。とにかく犬が好きで、飛行機よりも何よりも犬が好きで、そんな思い出があります。で2006年にはメイさんと、鴨下さんが結婚されて、その時には我々も一緒にあれどこですかね、裁判所で結婚のセレモニーをやってみんなでお祝いをしたこともとても楽しい思い出でした。またこの学校で2004年に多くの日本人スチューデントが毎月のように来てまして、その時には毎日のように鴨下さんと スチューデントで毎晩飲み会をしながらトレーニングをするという楽しい1年間を過ごしたり、いろんな思い出がよみがえってきます。で、私も2009年までアメリカにいたんですけれども、2009年から2016年まで日本に戻りまして、でまた縁があって2016年からアメリカに戻ってきました。そこからまた SK さんとの楽しい時間がスタートして、毎年のようにいろんなチャレンジな話、新しく飛行機を買う話、フライトの話、ビジネスの話、いろんなことを毎日毎週のように話してました。で、先だって私が夢だったホームビルドの RB7 を買いました。それも出来上がったらぜひ毎日貸してくれと言われたぐらいに楽しみにしてました。まだ飛行機は出来上がってないんですけど、 SK さんと一緒に飛ぶのが本当の夢でした。まだ完成半ばで、もう少しと言ってもあと5年ぐらいかかるんですけど、あと5年ぐらいで完成したら一緒に飛ぶ予定でいろいろ話してたんですけど、今回寂しい結果になって本当に悔いばかりが残ります。もっと早く出来上がってればなと思うばかりです。そんな18年、鴨下さんと SK さんと付き合ってきて、本当に優しい思いやりのある良きアドバイザーで、僕の一人の大親友です。これからもずっと一緒にと思ってたんですけども、残念で仕方ありません。これからは SK は Take off to heaven、 また元気で帰ってきてほしい、そう思ってます。 SK さん、本当にお疲れでした。 We are clear, take off to heaven. Thank you.
So I'd like to invite anybody that would like to come up and say a few words about SK. So if you would like to, please feel free to step up here to the podium. And Jorge, yes, please.
Can you guys hear me? Oh yeah, hear myself. Hey, I'm Jorge Quintero. I'm a former student here at Hillsboro Aviation back in the day when that was the name. A former instructor and a former Horizon Air, and now I'm in Alaska. I just want to thank SK for his instruction. I think I wouldn't be standing up here and achieve what I've done without him being by my side when I started here at Hillsboro Aviation. SK was, like everybody knows, very humble, loving, and I really like his smile. Anytime I had to do like a test with him or something like that, we sat around and talked, about airplanes and regulations, what it was. And it was kind of funny to see when he was like, "Is that right?" Always. You knew right there at the moment that you were going on the right track to go over and then go out flying with him. So it was a great time having him around, loving wife. He also introduced me a little bit to the Japanese culture, because as soon as I got my multi-engine rating, he said, Jorge, are you ready? Because I want you to start flying with my students. And that was huge. And that made me realize that no matter what it was, what's going through your life, between flights here at Hillsboro Aviation or whatever, you always turn around and look out for a SK to ask him a question. Even though he was running like 1,000 RPM or 100 miles an hour, he stopped, look at you, and listen. So, thanks. Thank you guys for coming, and yeah, just let's celebrate his, it's a celebration of his life, so let's do it, right? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Jakes, and just like Max and Houston and Lyle, I met SK in 1997 when I first started working here also. So it's been 24 years. I'm 29, so it's weird, right? One of my first memories of SK, Houston already told this story, but I'll back him up. Yes, SK got into the wrong car and drove it away from here and didn't even realize it wasn't his car. And like Houston said, only SK. I don't know. What happened in the end?
Come see me after.
Well, the person who owned the other car came and said their car was stolen. So it was kind of a mess for a little bit. But at this time, I was working part-time in the dispatch office, so it was when I was working nights and weekends, and we would close at 9 o'clock at night. And for anybody who's been in the dispatch office, it worked in there, 9 o'clock at night is when the flight is supposed to come back. If the flight doesn't come back, me as a dispatcher, I had to wait and figure out where that flight was. SK liked to fly night times, and he would frequently be scheduled to come back at 9 o'clock. He did not come back at 9 o'clock. So many nights I would be in a panic, probably talk to Lyle at the tower. Have you heard from SK? Where is he? What's going on? Where's his plane? So SK, when I told him, hey, you have to be back on time or I have to wait and look for you, he started scheduling his returns for 9:30. So, so it was a win-win. I didn't have to wait around, and he got to do his flight and do whatever he wanted to do. And Houston mentioned about SK's name, SK. And as I was driving here, I could still picture, this is, in the early 2000s, SK's initials on the dispatch board. I can just see it clear as day in my mind's eye, SK on the dispatch board. So I appreciate the discussion of his name also. A few years later, when the JAA students would start coming for the summer, the high school kids, SK really wanted me to teach them English, and he was always so proud to be able to say, oh yes, this is Jennifer Ego Sensei, something, right? Right? Okay. And he would always be so proud to say she's got a master's degree in education, and he would just like beam at me. He was always just so proud of being able to say that, and it made me feel really good. And I have to tell this story because if I don't, May will wonder why I didn't tell this story. And I don't really remember where it was, but it was a card of some sort, a birthday card for me or something like that, that he had signed his name and wrote this little inscription. He's like, to Jennifer, my natural enemy. And I think what he was trying to say is that we were complete opposites. But so ever since that, whenever May and I and SK and I talk, it's, oh, my natural enemy. But he loves me. And the reason he loves me, I think, is because of something that May said, is that, and for those of you who have known me over the years, I'm kind of one of the problem people. So he liked to be able to work with me and get me to be less of a problem. I don't think I did a good job, though. But years after that, the past few years, he would always invite me to include me in May's birthday dinner, and that always was just really made me feel really good, made me feel really special, and made me feel really special because over the 24 years, SK went from the guy who drove the wrong car home to one of the most, and this people have all mentioned this, one of the most kind-hearted people that I have ever known, and he became my friend, and I miss him. Thank you.
Now I understand why SK came so much to my office to talk to me, because he talks to all the problem people. My name is Natalia Câmpian, and I've known SK for over 13 years. It's really difficult for me to adapt to the new world, the world without SK. As I said, he was coming to my office pretty often with an agenda, always had his points for the discussion with me. And we would talk about the school, talk about the things that we can improve. I will definitely miss that. I want to share with you one of the things that I've respected most of SK. He was very, very humble. He was an amazing pilot, a very good business mind, very good businessman. He also owned a small percentage of Hillsboro Aero Academy, but he never, ever used those in his advantage. He wouldn't just come to me and say, hey, I'm an owner too, we need to do this or we need to do that. No, he never did that. He had the longest best run program at HAA. Actually, we did get the China program because he did such a good job running the Asia program. Despite that, he never imposed his ideas on me or anybody else. He wanted you to grow into his ideas and not just do it because SK said so. I very much respected and appreciated that at him. Obviously, all of us present here have met SK in different stages in our lives. However, I think I'm right when I say that many people today can call SK their mentor. And I am one of them as well. I can definitely call SK my mentor. He wouldn't accept that title. He would look at me and just do that thing, or he would be embarrassed to call him your mentor. But he was kind of, he didn't want you to call him that. But I want to share with you a couple things that I've learned from him as my mentor. SK has dedicated his life to the school, and that's one of the reasons why we have this celebration here at HAA. It was the family's desire to do it here because the school was his life. He was running the Asia program. He was taking care of the students, making sure that all of them do a good job. He was also a DPE. And he was running all of that very successfully. He honestly didn't have much free time. I have to admit that not many of us can do that. His kids were grown up, were no longer, at his home. May was working here very long hours as well. So yes, there were certain things in his advantage to be able to be here all day long and spend his time here. Many of us cannot do that, right? But the things that I've learned from him is that I need to put passion in everything that I do. If you don't enjoy your job, figure out a way to enjoy your job, because you will do this for a long time, and if you do it with passion, you will definitely touch the lives around you. Wouldn't be kind of a pity in a way to do a job just to earn a paycheck? Could we do our jobs and influence the lives of people around us while earning a paycheck? SK never took a vacation. Actually, once he came to my office and said, Natalia, in 24 years here, I only took one sick day off. Like in 24 years, one sick day off. We, Lavinia in HR, would go to him often and said, hey, it's time for you to take a vacation. You've already at the maximum and you are no longer accruing vacation. You need to take time off. He would say yes. Yeah. Agree with Lavinia. He would take 3 days off, and guess what? He was back at Hillsboro Aero Academy in those days off. Unfortunately, because he was also a DPE, we couldn't tell him, hey, go home, you're not allowed to be here, it's your vacation. He would say, I'm a DPE, I'm here to do check rides. So we wouldn't have won either direction we tried to go with him taking some vacation or time off. The other thing that I've learned from SK was to not ignore problems. Honestly, with SK around me, I couldn't have ignored the problems, because every 3 days he would be back in my office. Once he noticed the problem, he would share with me the problem, and then if I wouldn't respond in the next 24 hours, next day he would be back with his notes, with a notebook with the points that he needed to tell me why the problem is so big. And in case I didn't notice a certain facet of that problem, he would be there to remind me why we need to act on it. Then he'll go find Houston, he'll go find people around that would be willing to listen to him until we solve that problem. It was funny, whenever I got a text from him, hey Natalia, are you around? I knew exactly what was coming. But honestly, I will miss that a lot. I will miss those meetings with the agenda in which we talked about how to take better care of our students. I will miss his advice. I will miss his agenda. I will miss seeing him running around the campus. I personally, in 13 years, I haven't seen him walking normally. He would just run around. He would take the time if you stop him to talk with you, but other than that, he would be just running around. I will definitely miss that. But I do want to make him proud, and I want to be a testimony that his short life wasn't wasted, and he's touched my life, and I know the many lives of the people here. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I just felt like I had to say something. SK was so much to so many of us in so many different ways. He was supportive, he was a friend, he was a ray of sunshine around here. And I really think that it's still gonna be here. It's gonna be in the walls, it's gonna be in the airplanes, it's gonna be in the CFIs and the students. We're still gonna have that spark here. And I'd like to gander that he is still up there flying. I think that he's probably in the clouds, and he's probably having fun flying off of shooting stars. I really think he's doing that, and that's what I'm going to see when I look up and see that happening. He loves to fly so much, he hasn't stopped. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brad Brown, and I go back much further than most of you in this area. I wanted to share, so many wonderful things have been said, But the most important thing about, well, you call him SK. I go back when he was actually Shadow at the University of Dubuque was his nickname. I always called him Satoru. He was my roommate, and we shared a year together writing papers. But I just wanted to share, you know, the odd thing or the funny things that happened in Satoru's life and how we actually came to know each other. Satoru was such a good friend, but oddly enough, we both were new students at the University of Dubuque. And we were both down getting our FAA physicals. That was back in the day before Venmo and PayPal and all these other things. And this Japanese man young student came running up to me. He says, "Oh, I left my wallet. Can you loan me?" I think it was $40 or something at the time. I don't remember. And oddly enough, this perfect stranger, he seemed so genuine and honest to me. I loaned him the last $40 I had in my wallet. And that's how that friendship began. And over the years, you know, all the wonderful things that have been said about him, he was that way at a young age too. I think I met him, he was 21 perhaps. But he was like my older brother because I was only maybe 19 at the time. So he was like a big brother to me. But I wanted to share one of the things kind of enforces what everyone has said about him. So I was never very good at math. I struggled mightily. And of course I had to take my the basic college level algebra. And luckily I had a roommate that was very good at math. But more important than that, he was so determined to make sure everyone else succeeded. I was terrible at math. He stayed up just before my final. He stayed up with me 2 nights solid, working through studying for my final exam, which I got an A-, I think. But considering how poor of a student I was, that was a success. That's Satoru. That was Shadow. That's SK to you. And I just wanted to share, because there's been so many good and wonderful things said about him in his recent life. He and I have taken different paths over the year. I went on to work for United Airlines. I've been there 35 plus years. But I always feel like even though we weren't in contact as much as we used to be, he will always be a brother, a mentor as well, even though we were both students together. And one of the lasting memories I'll always think of, he had a very unique way when we would go flying. And I will always remember, and his fellow students that were flying at the time, how he would open the window and call out, "Clear prop!" And I still remember that unique way he did everything. Like everyone, I was shocked to hear. I still am in disbelief. And I just want to express my condolences to the family. He was a wonderful man, wonderful father, wonderful friend. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So I wanted to talk about a few items, some special tributes to SK. I think everybody's taken great note of the, I've had a few people ask me about this before we started today, that on the program and also these pins, these wonderful pins and programs, this logo of SK. Just wanted to share with it. A lot of people ask me about the history of that, so I thought I'd just share a few words about that. This logo was actually created last year in honor of SK by the Japan Aviation Academy Hillsboro class of 2020. After SK passed, it was modified by them as a tribute to him by his students, past and present. So if you haven't had a chance to get a pin, and if there's still any available, they should be still on the tables over there. I would also like to share with everybody another tribute we're doing at Hillsboro Aero Academy in memory of SK. We're going to be renaming our International Student Study Room to the SK Study Room in his honor. As many of you may have already seen, over on the table here, we have 2 plaques and some photos of SK. These plaques and the accompanying photos will be hung in this room for all current and future students to see. The plaques read, dedicated in the memory of Satoru SK Kamoshita, our friend, colleague, mentor, and teacher, who inspired us all with his tireless passion for sharing with others the gift of flight. So please, if you haven't had a chance to, please take a look at those plaques. Again, we'll be putting them up in the new SK study room later this afternoon. While we are proud to name something on the ground in his honor, we knew that the only way to truly honor SK is by giving him the legacy of the gift of flight. SK has given so much of his energy and life to Hillsboro Aero Academy. So in addition to naming the study room after SK, we felt it was important for the memory of SK to continue to soar. So I'd like to introduce to you all a plane that we've modified in honor of SK. So let me introduce to all of you 14SK. As you see, the registration number is now 14SK. While we know it's standard radio procedures to pronounce this registration as 14 Sierra Kilo, I'm sure there might be a few 14SK radio calls out there. I would hope our friends from the FAA who are in the audience today will happen to look the other way when they hear one of those 14SK radio calls. This aircraft is also unique in that we painted the tail blue so we can put the Hillsboro Aero Academy logo as well as a special, unique logo that was designed by one of our students. It's an SK initials with an airplane flying through it. This logo was designed by one of our Japanese students from our CSI program. It's Tomoaki Murai. He did an excellent job when we asked for somebody to come up with ideas for how we could honor SK's memory with this aircraft. At the conclusion of today's program, I would invite everybody to come out and have a chance to look at this airplane up close. Now, to conclude our program, I would like to invite up Lyle Johnson again and one of our Japanese students, Hayato Tsukagoshi, to read the high flight poem in honor of SK. The reading of this poem will include our formal program today. We invite everyone to stay and enjoy some refreshments with SK's family and his friends. And please, come see the airplane up close. And if you haven't already done so, we have a banner over here with SK's logo. The family is asking. So please, we would encourage people to sign your name on the SK banner over here. We will also be playing the slideshow that we were unable to show earlier, but we're going to be playing that on a continuous loop. So please come enjoy that slideshow on the monitors. I also want to let everybody know that we're going to put a link on our social media for the slideshow, so if those aren't able to watch it today, we'll have that available to other people to see. So on behalf of SK's family, thank you for honoring SK with your presence here at Hillsboro. And thank you those who are watching from home and from all over the world. Lyle.
Houston told me that when they were talking about this poem, he asked May who should read it, and she said Lyle. I can't tell you what an honor this is. Thank you. In 1977, I joined the United States Air Force. I was stationed at a base in northern Texas. Every night, just before the local channel would go off the air, they would end the broadcast the same way. They would show a T-38 Talon, which is an Air Force jet trainer, lifting off the runway. The aircraft would climb up through the clouds and the sun gleaming off its wings, and they would read this poem followed by our national anthem. As I read this, I'd like you all to imagine that you are SK, in the cockpit, flying alone, perhaps not yet knowing your destination or what time you'd be returning. You're just enjoying the miracle of flight while admiring the beauty of the world below you and the endless sky above. This poem was written in 1941 by Canadian Air Force pilot John Gillespie McGee and is entitled High Flight. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter's silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up, the long delirious burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark or even eagle flew. And while with silent, lifting mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. Hayato.
このポエムを読むにあたって、ここにいる皆さんの、そして自分の思いを込めてこのポエムを読んでいきたいと思います。ハイフライト。ああ、私は地球の束縛から解き放たれ、銀翼に乗って笑いながら空を舞った。太陽に向かって昇り、光芒の差す空に飛び込み、そして喜びをかみしめた。そしてあなたが夢にも思わなかった何百ものことを成し遂げた。高く太陽が照らす静寂の中で向きを変え、高く舞い上がり、そして弧を描いた。そこにとどまり吹きすさぶ風を追いかけ、機体をまっさらな空気の回廊へと導いた。無我夢中で燃える青の中を上へ上へと突き進み、ひばり、そしてわしさえも飛んだことのない高さまでいとも簡単に到達した。そして静かに高揚する気持ちを抑え、高く未踏の領域を飛びながら、私は手を伸ばし、神の御顔に手を触れた。空高く。Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please enjoy us for some refreshments and some time to catch up with old friends and family. Thank you. Do everybody here? Yes. Oh.
Yes.
Do you want me to get everybody started? Let's go.
Okay.
Can you get it at May? Sorry.
私のお墓の前で泣かないでください。そこに私はいません。眠ってなんかいません。千の風千の風になってあの大きな空を吹き渡っています。秋には光になって畑に降り注ぐ。冬はダイヤのようにきらめく雪になる。朝は鳥にあなたを目覚めさせる。夜は星になってあなたを見守る。私のお墓の前で泣かないでください。そこに私はいません。死んでなんかいません。千の風に
君の心へ続く長い一本道はいつも僕を勇気づけたとてもとても険しく遅い道だったけど今君を迎えに行こう自分の大きな夢を追うことが今までの僕の仕事だったけど君を幸せにするそれこそがこれからの僕の生きる印目に涙が運ばれて君の瞳をこれた時恋のよろいの家へ続くあの道を今足元に確かめて今日から君はただの女今日から僕はただの男生きてゆくことの意味問いかけるそのたびに胸をよぎる愛しい人々の温かさこの星の片隅で巡り会えた奇跡はどんな宝石よりも大切な宝物泣きたい日もある絶望に嘆く日もそんな時そばにいて寄り添うあなたの影二人で歌えば懐かしくよみがえるふるさとの夕焼けの優しいあの